On Billboard tonight, we meet Sufi poet Paul Sutherland, comedy legend Bernie Clifton, and enjoy music from Emanuel Bach and Paul Simon. Good evening and welcome to Billboard, with me, Ted Stanley, for a roundup of what's on where you are across the Humber region. Bruff's Peturia Players opened their season on the 25th of October with Neil Simon's classic comedy The Odd Couple, featuring an all-female cast. Tickets are available from 01482 666 908. To commemorate the end of World War I, the Beverley Theatre Company have adapted a version of Rowan Atkinson's classic Blackadder Goes Forth. Tony Barker went to find out more.
You know our staff HQ is always on the lookout for good cooks. Well, we go over there, we cook them something, and we get out the trenches that way.
Baldrick, it's a brilliant plan. We had a few sessions with a projector up on the wall, watching some episodes and getting some of the mannerisms and some of the props we have had to dig out as well. So yeah, it's been a work of love for a long while, this one. Yeah.
So what's it about being sarcastic that you enjoy so much?
It comes naturally to me anyway. It's typecasting, I suppose. Like, yeah. So, but no, it's like a license to be mean to people, especially Baldrick. Like, get a couple of kicks in there and what have you, like, get a punch or two. So it's a nice little role.
The thing about getting the rights to Blackadder is you can only use the TV scripts and you can't create anything new. You're allowed to adapt the scripts, which is obviously what we've done. So people will find it very familiar ground to what they've seen on the television, although they may think, oh, I'm sure that joke wasn't there before. But you don't want to see exactly the same thing as you've seen on the TV, do you? Otherwise, you're going to fall asleep.
The production runs from the 7th to the 10th of November at Beverley's Memorial Hall. Tickets are available from beverleytheatrecompany.com. Submissions have now closed for the 2018 Hammond House International Literary Prize awarded by the University Centre Grimsby. Judging is underway and the winners will be announced on our December programme. Judges for the poetry category this year include Sufi poet Paul Sutherland, who joined me at the University Centre Grimsby to talk about his life and work. So Paul, welcome to Billboard.
Thank you.
It's lovely to see you again.
And you, Ted.
You're a Canadian-British writer. Your poetry has recently been published in its second edition of the New and Selected Poems.
Yeah.
Where were you from originally?
A steel-making city called Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, which has a prominent escarpment. And it was a great place to play as children. We lived very close to the escarpment. In those days, Hamilton was publicized as the steel town of Canada. Now they try to promote it as a place that has 150 waterfalls. We knew about the 150 waterfalls back then. So it was a very creative space. Yeah. When I was at the age of 17, I was playing with my friends on the street, and I suddenly looked up at our house, which was a detached house, and I said, I should be up there writing poetry.
Just like that?
Like that. And I went up and I began. I was influenced very much by the poetry that my grandfather recited to me when I was a boy. So I was very drawn towards the 19th century writers, especially Sir Walter Scott. These vast romantic pictures of moonscapes and heroics and damsels in distress. And I tried to write like that, and it was a complete failure because I was in 1960s, not 1860s. And you can't go back and start writing like Shelley or Keats. You can be inspired by them, but you can't go back and write like them. You have to recognize you're writing from your language and your time. I was ready to give up. And I saw this butterfly fly across in front of me on this road, and I decided to follow it. and it led me to the grave of Nawi Bawikwe. And at that point, I realized I could write about this event in a modern style. So very quickly, after being interested in Sir Walter Scott and the Romantics, I became drawn to the Germans, especially Rilke, and read him intensively. And that was another kind of voice. And I felt I could apply that voice to this experience, that this was a revelation.
And one of the other influences in your life was your father.
Oh, yes. Well, my grandfather was reciting poetry to me, but over the years, after I got over all the conflicts between my father and I began to realize he was a wordsmith. And he was always throwing out things like, don't get any conniptions. Are your cronies coming around today? You know, it's just go outside and blow the stink off you. That was one. It was endless, you know. And I think now, well, that fed in somewhere. That couldn't be ignored, you know.
So following your upbringing in Canada, what brought you to England?
I worked as an orderly in an intensive care unit in Hamilton. And those engagements with the patients trapped in their illness inspired in me, I want to do what they can't do. And so I started to walk. So my ideal was to come to England, where my grandparents had come from, and walk from Tilbury to the north of Scotland. And I kept writing, but I had lost whatever it was that made me so inspired by the grave of Nawi Bawikwe. And it was about 15 years before I started to get it back. 2004 is the year in which I had 2 books published, married my wife, we're still married, and where I became a freelance writer.
Thank you very much for joining us on Billboard. It's been really interesting talking to you about your inspirations in your life and your writing, and we look forward to seeing more of you in the future, both in publication and in life.
Thank you very much.
You can buy Paul's collection of poetry from valleypressuk.com. Now, taking a time away from a busy rehearsal schedule, our guest presenter on Book Review this month is class act David Wrighton. Thank you for joining us on Billboard, David.
It's a pleasure, Ted. And we have some colourful book choices this month that take us from the American wilderness to the Cold War in Russia and a civil war in Chile. Every colour has a story and a multitude of meanings, and in The Secret Lives of Colour, Cassia St. Clair takes you through a journey of the most alluring, alarming and thought-provoking colours without ever leaving your paint box. Enhanced with beautiful Pantone styling, St. Clair's book explores the romance of colours with charm, wit and knowledge. After reading this book, you may reconsider your choice of colour for that feature wall. Bridge of Clay is the long-awaited follow-up to Marcus Zussac's exquisitely written The Book Thief, whose popularity stretched well beyond the young adult for whom it was intended. In this new book, Zussac tells the story of 5 brothers, the fourth of which, Clay, tries to build a bridge into the wilderness following his mother's death. At once an existential riddle and a search for redemption, this tale of 5 brothers coming of age in a house with no rules brims with energy, joy and pathos. A highly anticipated tour de force from a master storyteller. My Beautiful Imperial by Welsh author Rhianna Lewis follows the journey of David Davis from his upbringing in West Wales to the captaincy of the steamship Imperial during the Chilean Civil War in 1891. While ostensibly a story of action and adventure, the book skillfully blends beautiful and haunting passages with engaging characters and the perennial theme of self-determination and economic imperialism. Runner-up in the 2017 Hammond House International Literary Prize, Lewis has displayed her literary talent once again in this powerful and engrossing debut novel. In The Spy and the Traitor, Ben McIntyre tells the true story of Oleg Godowsky, the son of two KGB agents and product of the best Soviet institutions, who grew disenchanted with the Soviet regime and became a British spy. The story follows a three-way gamemanship between nations, culminating in Godowsky's nail-biting escape from Moscow in 1985. Like the greatest fictional spy novels, McIntyre brings the readers deep into the world of treachery and betrayal, where one man's hatred of communism had the power to change the future of nations.
Davy's next production for Class Act is a Christmas special, Sun, Snow, Sand and Crabs, which runs from the 26th of November. Tickets are available from Parkway Cinema, 01472 290 100. The Louth Concert Society's season of classical concerts began this month with virtuoso violinist Emmanuel Bach. Society Chairman Steve Burgess tells us more. So, Steve, when did the Louth Concert Society first start?
It started during the war in 1942. And some very distinguished artists were invited to put on concerts at that time. Last year was the 75th anniversary, which we celebrated and had a benefit concert.
So it has some very prestigious people involved in the society from its start.
You can see some of that history and some of the artists that are here.
And your concert season is due to start any time now?
Yes, it starts in October, 3 concerts monthly before Christmas and 3 following Christmas, ending in April.
And where are the concerts held?
The concerts are held at the Salvation Army Hall in Church Street, Louth. It doesn't sound a particularly prestigious venue, but it's a lovely new hall with excellent acoustics and an intimate setting for up to 80 people, an audience of 80.
And you attract some amazing musicians to this tiny little market town from all over the world.
Yes, and we concentrate these days on young up-and-coming artists.
What can we look forward to this season?
Well, we've got a programme again of 6 concerts, starting off with a young violinist, Emmanuel Bach, who's going to be playing a varied programme.
Is there any particular concert that you're looking forward to?
Well, I'm looking forward to the first. Last season's last concert, we had an exceptional young saxophonist, Jonathan Radford, who came in at the last moment because the harpist hurt her hand and had to cancel very sadly. And he put on, with his accompanist, a wonderful concert, a varied programme of the classical saxophone.
Good. Well, Steve, it sounds like an exciting season coming up. Thank you very much for joining us on Billboard.
Thank you for having me.
The season continues with pianist Win Chan at the Salvation Army Hall on Thursday the 1st of November. Tickets are available on the door. Also in Louth, the community singers, led by David Roy Martin, are performing a mixture of musical memories at Trinity Church to commemorate the end of World War I on Saturday the 10th of November. The concert starts at 7 o'clock and tickets are available on the door. After the break, Hayley Lou Richardson, Nicolas Cage and Lady Gaga in film review, classic comedy with Bernie Clifton and your favourite musical theatre star, Janine Reeder. But first, a treat for Simon and Garfunkel fans when tribute band The Sound of Simon visit the Caxton Theatre Grimsby on Friday the 26th of October. You can now keep up to date with the latest entertainment news on our Facebook page, and make sure you don't miss any of our programmes. Go to www.billboardtv.uk, select TV channel and click subscribe. Welcome back to Billboard. Coming up on tonight's show, Janine Reader's roundup of what's on where you are in box office. But first, here's our review of the latest film releases, chosen by film critic Paul Lewis. On Film Review tonight, A Star is Born, directed by Bradley Cooper, Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage, and David Gordon Green's Halloween. But first, Columbus, Cogonada's profound and beautifully crafted art house film set against the backdrop of modernist architecture in Columbus, Ohio. Jin, played by John Cho, is escaping the hospital waiting rooms where his father lies in a coma when he meets Casey, played by Haley Lee Richardson, whose own life is on hold as she attempts to keep her addict mother on track.
Yeah.
You like it here?
I'm really interested in architecture.
I hear this town is quite the mecca.
There were nights that my mom just wouldn't come home at all.
Mom, it's me. Call me back.
How long do I stay here?
As long as it takes.
In this latest evolution of the Halloween franchise, Jamie Lee Curtis returns to her iconic role as Laurie Strode, confronting her fears of the masked figure who has haunted her since Halloween night 4 decades earlier.
Years ago, on Halloween night, Michael Myers murdered 3 people.
After that horrific night, he was sent back to the institution in captivity.
Even more seasonal horror in Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage as Red Miller, who lives a loving and peaceful life with his partner Mandy Bloom until she is abducted by sadistic cult leader Jeremiah Sand. Miller seeks a ferocious and frighteningly violent revenge.
Under the crimson, primordial sky, the wretched warlock reached into the dark embrace. His fist closed around the serpent's eye. Strange and eternal.
I need you to get me that girl I saw. You know what to do.
You're a special one, Mandy.
A Star is Born is Bradley Cooper's freewheeling update of this classic Hollywood story. The career of a hard-drinking music star, Jackson Maine, played by Cooper himself, is eventually overshadowed by the rising fame of his protege, Allie, played by Lady Gaga.
You know, man, in the old days, I always knew, like, you were gonna do something, that you'd be all right. It's the first time I'm worried about you.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Okay.
Tell me something, girl. Do you write songs or anything?
I don't sing my own songs.
Why?
I just don't feel comfortable.
Why wouldn't you feel comfortable?
Almost every single person has told me they like the way I sounded, but that they didn't like the way I look.
I think you're beautiful.
Returning to the seasonal horror theme, our family choice for this month is The House with a Clock in its Walls, starring Jack Black and Cate Blanchett in this magical adventure through the secret world of warlocks and witches to discover the source of the mysterious ticking in the walls of a creaky old house.
Hello, you're Lewis, I presume.
You'll see. Things are quite different here.
Is a very old place.
There's a clock in the walls.
Do you hear the ticking, ticking?
We don't know what it does, except something horrible.
Pick of the latest releases on DVD and Blu-ray include Monkey Shines from Eureka Entertainment, Night of the Demon from Powerhouse Films, and Candyman from Arrow Video. You can see Paul's full review of all tonight's films at www.billboardtv.uk. And now, as we promised on last month's programme, the full interview with Last Laughs in Las Vegas star Bernie Clifton when he appeared at the Riverhead Theatre in Louth. So, Bernie, welcome to Billboard. Thank you for joining us.
65 years.
Really? So, my next question is...
I'm thrilled. It's great. 65 years in the business. And here I am on Billboard. I'm delighted to be here.
Great. So, how did it all start? Tell me about the Glennogg's Dance Band.
Well, back in the day in St Helens, I discovered I'd got a singing voice, and I was working as a plumber on the building site in bathrooms, and the acoustics were of great help to me. And me and Moggy Moore went to the Theatre Royal in St Helens, and the man was asking for volunteers from the audience. Well, we were up there, like wrapped up a drain pipe, and he gave Bernard Moore a mop head on a handle, and said, "I want you to make love to the mop head, my darling," and all that. And he said, "And you can sing." So I opened my mouth to sing, and the theatre went still quiet, like a cathedral hush.
Or a bathroom.
And like a bathroom. I suddenly thought to myself, I don't know what's happening here, but it's better than plumbing. And I was kind of hooked. To dream the impossible dream. I got myself an audition for the local dance hall, so I borrowed my brother's pinstripe suit. You've heard of Armani. Well, this was Ardani's. And there I am in Ardani's suit, and I sang Love Is a Many Splendid Thing. And Bert Webb, the band leader, he said, "Right," he said, "I want you here 3 times a week at 7 o'clock to rehearse." I found myself one Saturday night standing up in front of a crowded dance hall singing Love Is a Many Splendid Thing. And when that happens to you when you're 17, 18, in front of your peers, the youth of St Helens, it was a special moment, something I've never forgotten.
And you cut your teeth on the pubs and clubs of Northern England, like a lot of people in the business.
Yeah, well, again, I think it's fate, Ted, in a strange way, plays a part. I was a plumber in St Helens, and while many people of my age, many lads of my age, dreaded the thought of going into and doing the national service, for me it was the great escape. It got me out of being the world's worst plumber. And I was sent to Doncaster. I discovered that down the road, 15 miles down the road, were like hundreds of clubs and pubs that needed entertainment.
So how did you move from being in the RAF and moonlighting in northern clubs to being on Crackerjack and TV programmes?
A long journey. I started to introduce a bit of comedy into my act. And I met Les Dawson. And he must have seen something in me, because he took me to one side and said, "You're okay," he said, "but you're just doing what everybody else is doing. Why don't you try and find your own style?" And I went, "Well," he said, what do you like doing?" I said, "Well, I love being funny with props, with visual, you know, I love," and he said, "Well, why don't you just go out and be a prop comic? Why don't you go out and just work with props and be different?" And he was my kind of mentor for many years, was Les. And I took him at his word, and I just went totally visual. It was a great learning curve for me.
And of course, you went on to appear on all sorts of shows, the Sooty Show and French and Saunders.
I know, it's amazing. Looking back, it's unbelievable.
Now, I know you were with Sue Pollard in Las Vegas, but had you met Sue before? Had you worked with her before?
Well, I'd met her, yeah, and I'd met everybody on the show, Sue and Cannonball and Jess Conrad and Bobby Chris. I'd met them all, and then the fun started, because they cleverly gave us the impression that there weren't enough bedrooms, that we hadn't got a bedroom each. And of course it really hit the fan. And people were kicking off and saying, I'm not sharing with that. And of course, what they hadn't told us, just across the courtyard was a little cottage with 4 bedrooms. But it was great, yeah. And the great thing about it, of course, that everybody who watches the series is aware, is that we had this, our American producer, Frank Marino, looked at us, saw what we did, and he was convinced that it was going to be a car crash, and he didn't get the ostrich at all. Oh, what's this chicken? Is he drunk? What does he do? You know, what is it? This is Vegas, and he was using phrases like, "A Vegas audience, they can smell the fear." And I said, "Frank, you've never worked a miners' welfare in Barnsley on Sunday lunchtime. Don't talk to us about fear."
But before you did Last in Las Vegas, you went back to your first love, which was singing.
Well, I was always a singer, and people were surprised. I auditioned for The Voice, and I always say that I was just a singer that got in with the wrong crowd. The props took over my life.
And now you're still in the business, you're still working, and you're back on the stage with your own show.
It's me on stage. It's a one-man show, and it tells the story from childhood in St Helens, being missed by a German bomb, to go all the way to along the way, my adventures, all the way to Las Vegas, and with a few songs included, lots of images, photographs, video clips, backing tracks. If I say it myself, it's a very interesting story, and here I am. I'm on the road with it.
Lovely. Well, Bernie, thank you so much for joining us on Billboard. It's been really fascinating talking to you, and good luck with the tour.
I've been in the business for 65 years.
Was that 65 years, Bernard, did you say?
Are we going to time this? Doc, yeah.
How about this?
That's fantastic. Come here, that's brilliant. Listen, I've no idea what's going on here, but I think I've died and gone to heaven. Can we all get in on this?
I think we can do that.
I'm going to open my mouth jar.
Bernie will be starring with Anita Dobson in Cinderella at Whole New Theatre from the 6th of December. Tickets are now available from wholetheatres.co.uk. And now, with all the news of What's On Where You Are, our favourite musical theatre star, Janine Ridder. You're looking a bit sheepish tonight, Janine. Got something to hide?
No, Ted. Nothing.
So what have we got to look forward to?
Well, at Beverly's Eves Riding Theatre, a brand new adventure of the Lightless Pumpkin provides enchanting seasonal fun for all the family from Monday, the 29th of October. And on the 1st of November, a live performance from TV comedian Phil Jupitus. In the candlelight sessions on Sunday the 28th of October, you can enjoy the Celtic bluegrass music of Bella Gaffney and Polly Bolton.
I'm falling on my knees and I'm begging you please, won't you come and stand by me, little girl, won't you come and stand by me.
Don't miss the stunning adaptation of David Mark's crime thriller Dark Winter when it returns to Hull Truck Theatre for 6 further performances from Tuesday the 6th of November. Also at the Hull Truck, you can see a new stand-up show from award-winning comedian Marcus Brigstock on Friday the 2nd of November. And direct from Apollo Theatre in London's West End, the improvised musical Showstopper is on Thursday the 1st of November.
I need your help.
Monday morning and it's 9 a.m. and the oil is pumping from the sea again. Monday morning we're here and we're just
absolutely gobsmacked. I mean, it's breathtaking.
all so clear.
Right in the middle of the big Atlantic. Look up at that.
Tribute band Talon recreate the Best of the Eagles at Scunthorpe Baths Hall on Sunday the 21st of October. The people's favourite comedian Jim Davison is on the road again on Wednesday the 7th of November. And a sensational lineup of musicians and artists celebrate the life and music of Whitney Houston in Queen of the Night on Friday the 9th of November. At the Grimsby Auditorium, The Crooners follows the story of 3 English gentlemen as they explore some of the best music in the Great American Songbook. Also in Grimsby, a rare chance to see one of the most charismatic and adventurous quartets of the British chamber music scene, when the Villas Quartet play Sterndale Bennett, Mendelssohn and Dvorak at Grimsby Central Hall on Thursday the 15th of November. At the Riverhead Theatre in Louth, you can see the deviously delicious musical Little Shop of Horrors from Monday the 5th of November, Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre on Wednesday the 9th of November, and, lest we forget, a wonderful concert in aid of the Royal British Legion with a host of stars from local musical theatre on Saturday the 17th of November.
Any particular reason for choosing the last event, Janine?
No, Ted, it just looked interesting.
Thank you, Janine. As you probably gathered, Janine will be joining a host of musical theatre stars in Lest We Forget at the Riverhead Theatre on Saturday the 17th of November. Well, that's almost all for this month's show. Next month on Billboard, we visit a new coastal art exhibition, talk to author Jill Pick about her latest novel, and meet a young musician who Ralph McTell compared with Scottish folk legend Bert Jansch. You can now keep up to date with the latest entertainment news on our Facebook page, and make sure you don't miss any of our programmes. Go to www.billboardtv.uk, select TV channel and click subscribe. If you would like us to feature your own event on Billboard, you can email details to news@billboardtv.uk. From everyone on the Billboard team, thank you for joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you again in November, when our music guest will be Yorkshire singer-songwriter Katie Spencer.